Hi Elizabeth, it's Fancy and I'm looking at your design and comparing it to what you said. You're concerned about the transition between purple and cyan. You feel like your positioning is pretty good, that you've got straight shots between the primaries and their secondaries, here, 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 and here. You're concerned about whether your interpenetrations meet the requirement, and you're concerned about the middle where all the colors seem to come together, and you don't want it to be a random mess of colors. Okay, so I can see why you started off with the darker middles, because you're trying to make those transitions between the different hue families within or close to the middle values. So gradating from dark to kind of the middle values, you would think would help you with that. So right now I feel like you have a lot of overallness. I don't feel like you gradate smoothly away from this darker hub. In fact, when I squint my eyes, I can see some very definite borders. Like these to me create darker shapes, squares in some case. This kind of cuts off at the corners, but it's probably a square, kind of an implied square. So there's not a good transition between, you know, like this. I see this as a boundary and jumping to this. And there's a lot of high contrasts next to each other. Perhaps some of these are your interpenetrations that you refer to. I'm not quite sure. So high contrast here, for example, here, 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 really in lots of different places here. Lots of high contrast. So you need to make sure that you're using vanishing boundaries where the colors come together, and I see that you're trying to do that. Like here between the orange and the magenta is working well, but then you have lots of other places that aren't working well with regards to vanishing boundaries. With regards to transparency and transition, probably the yellow to orange is an area that's working the best, and we would expect that too because they're naturally kind of lighter colors to begin with in terms of value. And the same with the blue and the cyan and the green. They're kind of close to each other in value when we're looking at their middle values. Also, you have these kind of in alignment. So, they're all kind of situated in the same place along the edge of the picture plane. And if you could move some of them into the interior and maybe another one more implied, like you have the yellow and the blue implied. Some people have found it helpful to give more real estate to, say, the primaries, so this magenta, the cyan, and the yellow, and then sandwich the secondaries in between them, giving them less real estate, and that might be helpful in your case. It's not obvious to me where you're using interpenetration and what kind of interpenetration you're using. Are you using complementary or analogous or value? You wouldn't want to use all three. You'd want to pick one and use it sparingly and make sure it's reciprocated. Because you're using these small triangles, perhaps it's hard, and because you have a lot of overallness, it's hard to pick out where your interpenetrations are. One thing that might be helpful is kind of pairing a couple of or several of these smaller triangles into one interpenetration, perhaps a larger triangle that's composed of 1, 2, 3, 4, or one that's composed of 2. So rather than using a single triangle, maybe use 2 to create a larger triangle that creates an interpenetration. So think about those. I hope that helps, and I look forward to your next iteration.